my tardiness. I had a little trouble getting in.
No worries, no worries. So I've been following you for a long time. You were and we did some reporting on what you put out on Susie Wiles and their pharma connections in the past. I found that fascinating, and I want to get into that a little bit today. But you were really ripping on something about Pam Bondi and Pfizer here the last 24 hours or so. Tell us what you came up with.
Well, it turns out that in Bondi's financial disclosure forms that she had to give to Congress, that she had represented Pfizer within the last year or so before coming into her position as AG. And, I mean, in light of what I'm seeing across the board, anything that's touching this kind of globalist cabal is being just avoided like the plague right now. The administration is Trump himself is doing an incredible job, right? He's got EO after EO after EO, trade agreement. He's doing a great job. But, historically, going back to his first term, he didn't always have the best people around him. And one of the places where he was weakest was the DOJ. Yeah. Now, I hope I'm wrong about Bondi. I hope she turns out to be a rock star. But in light of the way she handled the Epstein stuff when she was AG in Florida, in light of the fact that she was representing Pfizer before coming in, and in light of all these other things, I think we have to keep asking questions and keep pushing real hard, because we're not seeing anything major come out of DOJ.
Yeah, where are the arrests, right? I mean, they keep saying they're coming. We're working on it. Mike Smith was on recently on a show saying it's coming. I've talked to the guys. I know it's coming, but Cash has gone quiet and Bondi have gone quiet, both of them. I mean, so it's disturbing. How long do we give them, do you think?
Well, here's the problem, right? So the way that let's look at what this looks like. So let's focus on Epstein, because I think the Epstein issue is the foundation to everything that's going on that's anti-Trump right now, right? Yeah. I think that they've got power, they've got blackmail stuff on just about anybody who's got power around this country, so they're using it. And it's came out in the last few days that almost certainly that includes places like Israel and the UK. Our close allies seem to have been tied into this ring, right? Yeah, it's not guaranteed. The evidence not definitive, but there's a lot of things pointing to it. So clear, it makes it a little bit difficult, when we're trying to negotiate these international deals, if you're busting these guys for blackmailing us. That said, they are. And, we look at the judges and the bad rulings. We look at the politicians, especially the Rhino Republicans, who won't vote for anything. 5 bills since Trump has been in office. 5? I mean, what's holding this up? Why are they going against the clear mandate of the people? And I would say that the Epstein list and similar blackmail rings and things like that are kind of a foundational thing that nobody wants to talk about, because it's probably a lot more widespread than anybody wants to acknowledge. So let's look at this. Why would they go quiet? Why would they do these things? Well, depending on who we've got info on, depending on who it ties to, it could be a political disaster for everybody. Yeah. Nobody wants to upset the power structure, but that's what we, the people, voted for. And when you look at the blackmail ring, right? So until someone of major import goes down, that blackmail ring continues. And the reason I say that is this. When you have a blackmail ring like this, they tell everybody within the ring, you are protected by the ring as long as you don't break. But when the first couple people start breaking and going to jail, the ring loses its power. Everybody else says, wait a second, you can't protect me anymore. And then panic happens. Then there's no more blackmail, right? Yeah. Then the whole thing collapses. It takes about 5 minutes to put, a little more than 5 minutes. But for an end user on a child rape case where you've got video evidence, to put that case together takes no time at all. None. And it doesn't affect the RICO action. Everybody says, well, yeah, but they're trying to do the RICO. No, that's bull crap. That's bull crap. The guy who's getting blackmailed on the end doesn't know how the organization is structured. He can't testify on it. He can't do anything on it because he doesn't know. Do you think that the blackmail ring is going to tell some end user who's being blackmailed, well, listen, we're blackmailing you, and let me tell you exactly how we're doing this? Of course not. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The guys who are the end user, the end victims on these, and they're not really victims because they're also perpetrators, but the guys who are being blackmailed don't know how the ring is structured. So the only thing they can testify to is that they've got a handler that's handling them. So it doesn't affect the RICO case, but it does shut down the blackmail ring if they put some of these guys in jail. So yeah, there's no excuse for this to be taking so long.
I've always wondered, why isn't, of course, a lot of these guys are blackmailed. Of course, they don't want their wives to know, or they don't want the world to know what they've been doing. But you would think one or two of them would at least come out that are patriots and say, look, I screwed up. I cheated on my wife. For the good of the country, I'm going to come clean. I'll deal with my wife. I've asked for forgiveness or whatever. But it hasn't happened, man. Is that because they kill the guys that try to do that, or what do you think?
Well, I think it's a combination of threats, and
Yeah.
also there's the reality, right? So
Mhm.
this is an open secret in Washington. Now,
Yeah.
a ton of these guys that are in Washington, their wives know that they're screwing around on them. They
Yeah.
all, I mean, it's like well known. If you go to Washington, if you spend any time in that cesspool filth pit, their wives know. It's
Yeah.
just an open secret, right? But here's the thing: the way that the rings work is they escalate,
Mm.
right? So they start out, and let's use brownstoning as an example, which is very widespread, much more widespread than anybody wants to admit. Brownstoning is you go out to the bar with a couple friends, whatever, and someone slips something in your drink. You wake
Yeah.
up the next day in a random hotel room with a couple pictures on the pillow sitting next to you of you doing some things that you don't want anybody to see.
Yeah.
And they say, listen, you can work with us or you can work against us. But if it isn't with us, these are going to be made public. And so what'll happen then is these blackmail rings will start out and they'll ask them to do little things. Hey, I want you to oppose this bill. You don't really like it anyways. It's not a big deal. Right. And then, hey, we're going to invite you to this next party. We appreciate that you're doing the right thing by us. So, we're going to just invite you because now we like you. Right. So
Yeah.
they go to the next party. They wake up the next day with another picture on the pillow next to them. But this time, what they did was substantially worse.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Right.
children, maybe, who knows? Yeah.
And it keeps escalating until they have total control over these people where, some of the stuff that they've got pictures of is like Epstein, some 60-year-old dude with a child, something, whatever. And so it continues to escalate until the control is really complete and total. And that's not speculation. This is something that is well known. If you talk to, FBI agents that are actually honest, if you talk to the people in Washington, this is just something that's happening on a very widespread basis. And I think that's really part and parcel of the problem here.
Well, you look at Mike Johnson, who went in the skiff. I'm going to have a T-shirt made. Don't go in the skiff, which is the name of the show. I mean, and Paul Ryan, he has lunch with Paul Ryan, and he's walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden he changes radically. Okay, we're all pro Ukraine now. We're pro money. We're pro everything.
Yep.
And he's, I think, one of the worst compromised, whatever it is. I mean, he's not doing what he was elected to do. Put it that way.
No.
You agree?
Oh yeah, he's terrific. I mean, listen, 5 bills, 5. I mean, and then you've got the bill. Yeah. So the continuing resolution that he put out just before Christmas, before Trump was in, I ripped that apart. He actually, I don't know if you saw this, but I posted on this background that time. He actually, in that bill, included language, and it was very tricky the way that they did this. They did it in a way that was very hard to see, that would have actually extended and expanded COVID emergency nonsense.
Yeah.
They actually hid that in the bill. So, like, this guy isn't just doing bad bills. He's sneaking things in that are dirty, dirty, rotten. And either he's so incompetent that he couldn't read the bill, or he's just a lying crook. And I don't know which one it is. But either way, I've waited and I've watched, and I've waited and I've watched. And, Congress is doing nothing. Nobody's doing anything. The key things here is right now, Trump is doing a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
But on day one of the next presidency, they can roll it all back because none of it's law. It's all executive orders or agreements.
There you go.
So we've accomplished nothing. And what the other side is doing, quite clearly, is just trying to wait it out for 4 years and move on.
So what the heck do you think was with these binders with the first Epstein release? I mean, it was just a show. Was that to out some of these influencers? Was it just Bondi screwing up? I mean, what the heck was that? Do you have any idea?
I don't know what they're thinking. My guess is that she, the best I can tell, she just didn't read it. I mean, she's just like, hey, put this out, and then told someone to put it. Now, in fairness to Bondi, she's busy.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot happening, and that job is intense.
Sure.
My guess is that she ordered someone to put it out. Someone sent something out, said, "Hey, I want all the Epstein stuff and I want it in a folder." So they put it in a folder, they hand it to her, they said, "This is what we got." And she never even bothered looking at it. She just handed it to the influencers.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine why you'd embarrass yourself that badly otherwise. This whole thing was a debacle. And I don't know, the problem is there are so many dirty actors in the DOJ and elsewhere that we just don't know how much of it's real and how much isn't. But what we do know is that, the entire SDNY FBI field office was not fired. They should have been, but they were not. We're still getting reports of Epstein evidence to being destroyed. We're still getting reports of all sorts of things. And we have no transparency and not a single high-profile arrest or prosecution anywhere of anything. And think about this, Todd. It's not just Epstein. How about Tesla, right? So we've got this violence against Tesla and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, we'll throw the book at a vandal, some 20-year-old idiot who's key into Tesla. But are we investigating the Open Society Foundation? Are we investigating?
Somebody's running all this, right?
Yeah. I mean, who's motivating this? Who's pushing this? It's like J6, just before the election. I worked with a whistleblower and we dropped a huge amount of data on J6. Huge. Not one person has been arrested for orchestrating, on the Democrat side, has been arrested for orchestrating J6. It was definitely a Democratic operation. It was orchestrated from the beginning. The evidence is there, but not one person. There has not been a single arrest that matters. You get, we got a gangbanger. You're supposed to get gangbangers, of course.
Yeah, they made a big deal the other day. We've arrested 2 guys who were, trafficking children or whatever. I mean, but what about all the election fraud? It goes deep, right?
What is it? The 734 group. That's a big deal, but great. You arrested some nobody selling, pervert porn to perverts. But how about the pervert porn that was made with elected members of Congress? How about that?
No kidding.
We're going to go after the low-level nobodies, but it's this 2-tier justice system. And that's kind of part and parcel. I mean, Bondi always seems to be sensitive. I mean, if you look back over her career, and I've looked a little bit at this, she's always been, let's use air quotes and say, sensitive to political considerations when she's doing her job. And there's no spot for that in justice. We, the people, want equal justice. And we really want to see some accountability for the people that have been destroying our country for years. Again, if she would do her job, I predict that Donald Trump's agenda would start flying through. You put a couple of there are reports that there are judges who are involved with Epstein stuff. Put a couple of them in jail and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that would change behavior real quick, I think.
I would imagine.
So, the whole pharma thing is fascinating to me. I remember in Trump's first term, right before the COVID stuff, he said, he tried to lower pharma prices. And I remember the quote on TV, he said, a lot of very powerful people are going to be mad at me for this. And then we saw what happened. But now he's signing today another EO that allegedly is going to reduce pharma prices for the U.S. customers. This is the whole thing, right? Because this is the advertising into all the media, which is the control matrix that keeps everybody propagandized. And if you pull that money out, that's big. I mean, am I right? Is that the bigger picture than just lowering drug prices?
Well, it's huge. It's huge. But I mean, here's the problem, right? So Trump and the White House stuff. Let's distinguish between Bobby and the White House.
Yeah.
Okay. Because everybody, including me, pretty fussy about the mRNA still being on the childhood vaccine schedule and still poisoning kids, right? Trump and the White House. Now, I don't, we can't say how much this is Trump himself and how much this is White House, are in favor of the mRNA platform and the AI medical future, right? They're pushing that direction. And whether we like it or not, whether we the people like it or not, the AI medical advancements are coming. That's nothing we can do about it. We can't stop it. It's a foregone conclusion. But the fact that we can't get any honesty about the mRNA thing is a bit concerning. Now, Bobby, we all know where Bobby is. I mean, you can say what you want, but Bobby's been consistent for 20 years.
Yep.
Everybody knows where he stands on this stuff. So you got to ask yourself, why is it that Bobby hasn't pulled this off the market? And the answer is very clear. And I've got all sorts of info on this. Like, because I do know people in this. Listen, he's being blocked. The White House won't let him just pull the mRNA off. Now, who is that? Was that Trump himself? I don't think, I think Trump is, again, listening to his advisors. But, look at his advisors. Look at the people close to him who were tied in with Big Pharma, who work with Big Pharma, who've made money off Big Pharma, who've made money off of, companies that were representing or working with Big Pharma. There's a ton of that. The White House doesn't want to shut down the mRNA platform because they think it's the future. A lot of them believe, and a lot of people believe, that mRNA and DNA and gene therapy and all this sort of stuff with AI will be the future of health. The problem with that is that, we have to start asking some ethical and some moral questions when we start looking at this, because these are gene therapy products, particularly when we start getting into the DNA and some of the stuff that is designed to reprogram our DNA.
Yeah.
Our DNA, if you depending on how you look at things and the way I see this, we're creating God's image, and we are what we are. And, I can understand certain, trying to repair damaged DNA. But if you start modifying our DNA beyond repairing damage, to me, that's the definition of transhumanism.
Well, it's satanic. I mean, you're destroying God's creation at the bottom line, right?
That's my opinion, right? So at the end of the day, if you tell me that you want to repair someone who's got damaged DNA because the environment was bad and it caused them problems, okay. If you're telling me that you're trying to modify a person to make them different or better, to me, that looks like something that is just completely wrong. But that's kind of where they're going with things.
And look at the unforeseen consequences. I mean, they think it's better, but likely it's not going to be better down the road. I mean, that you're dealing with Mother Nature here, right?
Well, we're messing with something that we shouldn't be messing with. As of last time I checked, now the AI is going to change us. AI is going to change us profoundly. But the last time I checked, we have, our genome's mapped. We have our genome mapped. That's done. But in terms of the DNA, about 2% of it codes for proteins. The other 98%, if you ask people what it does, they're like, we don't know. And up till just a few years ago, they used to tell us it was junk. It was just there because it was left over from whatever. So you've got a huge, huge, huge portion of our genetic makeup that nobody understands or has any clue what it's doing. Now, will the AI decode that? Yes. Yes, it will eventually. But why would you tinker with that machine?
Exactly.
And why would I trust that the AI's got it right? I mean, if you want to do the proper 20 plus years of testing and see whether these gene therapy products are safe and effective as they're claiming, and you want to make sure that they work right, well, then we can talk about it, right? But right now, they're trying to jam this stuff down our throat without it being tested, without it being anybody understanding how it works. And the fact that they're doing it without any transparency indicates corruption in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lied to us nonstop. You remember the safe and effective vaccines that were going to stop you from killing grandma, except for they didn't even bother studying to see whether it stops transmission.
Yeah.
These were never, there was not an honest thing about these. There is no greater failure in President Trump's record than Operation Warp Speed and the push to get these vaccines. And I'm tired of people who won't just say it. Yes, that was a failure. Quit telling him it was great. It wasn't. He didn't get them out that fast. Moderna started making a bunch of these in 2019 before the vaccine existed.
Yeah.
Yes, he probably expedited the process, but so what? He expedited the process to create a product that kills people. I love Trump. I love what he does everywhere except for that. That is a disaster. And I don't, I'm just, my job. Listen, if you support Donald Trump and you support MAGA, and if you want to make America great again, sometimes that means you have to tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable for people to hear or say. Operation Warp Speed was a disaster. Donald Trump, probably the best president we've had in decades. Love the guy, but that was a disaster. That was a plot. They fooled him. They pulled the wool over his eyes, and it worked very well.
So there's another layer to this. I think they were running a massive clinical trial without informed consent on the human population. I think that's what they were doing, and
100%.
it came from DoD,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they've used this whole countermeasure narrative that we have to develop these countermeasures to these viruses. And you can talk depopulation, you can talk everything, but I think you're right. The end goal is to harness this technology, and they couldn't do it legally.
No.
So I think they just ran this whole clinical trial. But then that makes you think, well, what about Trump's push for the vax? You know, was he just fooled, or was he being told we have to do this? Because that's, as you said, that's the one thing he won't back away from.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Away from.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so why is that?
Well, there's a question. I mean, is it pride? Is there more to it? And I will give Trump the benefit of the doubt on this because I like him.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I think he's a very honest broker for, in terms of his desire to make America great again. I just don't know that I disagree with him on this one issue about how to do it. So let's look at this realistically, because we all know where I stand. I'm 100% anti-mRNA, anti all this crap.
Mm-hmm.
But let's give Trump the benefit of the doubt for a second. There's a couple things that we do have to recognize. First of all, the AI thing is an arms race, and it's the most important arms race in world history. Now, I don't think that anybody wins the AI arms race, because once AI is smarter than us and has robots that can do whatever it wants them to do all over the world, we're screwed. But hopefully it decides it still likes us. Either way, what I do know is the AI arms race is on, and if China gets it before us or has the better AI before us, we're doomed, right? If one of these rogue states gets there first, we're doomed. So I understand the need to push AI. Now let's tie that in. The transhumanism and some of these other agendas, they're kind of a part of this, right? Mm-hmm. Because we also have biowarfare going on, right? That's what the mRNA jabs were. That's what the COVID was. That's what the lab created monkeypox was. Some of these other things. We got lots of stuff coming out of the labs right now. It's fair to argue that if we don't get ahead of the curve using AI and some of these other things, that it is a major national security threat. And when you look at where this is coming from, the DARPA BARDA labs and some of these other things, those guys frequently are willing to trade freedom for security, which I disagree with.
Yeah.
But that's their job, is to find a way to secure the country. And I don't think everybody in every one of these labs is evil. I think that they're just looking at stuff and saying this is the only way to do it. So, the thing about this is why is Trump so dead set on this? Well, I don't know. The narrative is that it's pride, that he just doesn't want to admit he was wrong. But I don't know. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I can absolutely agree with the fact that these things are coming. We have no choice but to try and get there first, or we lose. So, at that point, where does that leave us? And it leaves us exactly where we are. So, to my mind, then the real thing becomes making sure that we're transparent about these things, giving people an honest option. Todd, do you know that there is no law in this country requiring informed consent?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I would.
There are informed consent laws related to certain things, clinical trials, things like that. There's a fair bit of common law about informed consent, but there is not a single statute in this country that requires informed consent.
Wow. You mean for medical trials?
No, if you go to the doctor's office and say, "Doc, I need whatever," or I'm sick, and he says, "Well, take this." Mm-hmm. He's supposed to disclose things. There's some common law on that, but there is no statute on the books that defines what informed consent is and requires it on any sort of a substantial basis.
I did not know that. So, when you tie everything you're saying, we've had some other experts on in the past few weeks about quantum computing. I mean, you're talking a million X increase in capability over the next
Yep.
short run, a few years. I mean, you're right. This is off the charts, and we have to win the race. But my fear is we're changing God's creation, which I think this is all a big spiritual war, and this is the big part of it. Last thing, Susie Wiles, have you seen any more on her connections to Big Pharma, as in taking money?
Well, so I mean, listen, Susie was working with the Mercury LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Susie was working with a lot of people on that. I put that stuff out. In fact, I broke that stuff, I don't know, a year or so ago.
Yeah, we reported on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did all that stuff, and people have been digging into it a little bit ever since.
Mm-hmm.
But Susie is largely reported to be one of the most powerful people on the planet. She has Trump's ears. She controls his schedule. She controls access to him. And, she's very, very friendly with the big pharma world. Now, I don't know Susie.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Stone, some of my friends that swear she's a good person. They swear up and down. Now, when I presented that stuff, I asked people, I said, listen, I've given you evidence. Can we get maybe she can give a statement. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because I want to be wrong about these things, right?
Yeah.
I want Pam Bondi to be a superhero. I want Susie Wiles to be a rock star. I want all these people to do the right thing. But I'm looking at the evidence because I'm an evidence guy, and that's all I care about. Right now, Pharma is continuing. No one's talking about fraud. We're still working with Pfizer actively. Pfizer that had SV40 promoters in their according to one study, in their vaccines. And remember, SV40 promoters, that's not an accident. Those have to be put there intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And they help to cause cancer. Geez, look at the turbo cancer explosion. We have one of the most corrupt entities on the planet in Pfizer. We're still working with them. We're still working with them actively. You got Moderna, you've got all the conflicts of interest, all these different things. When I look at the evidence, what conclusion can I make other than there's influence? What conclusion can I make other than there's friendships here? Now, I got all sorts of documents. I don't ever put anything out without having, 10,000 books worth of data on things. So I got all sorts of evidence on all sorts of people. Frankly, I would be real honest with you. I had some close friends ask me to back off of Wiles.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that it would be damaging to Trump and that, and we needed to get him in the White House. And I agreed. But, at the end of the day, the stuff that I put out there was dead accurate. And, she's under the radar right now. I mean, they're not allowing certain people, you heard the stuff about, there's the big controversy with the Surgeon General, right? It's supposed to be Kelly Victory. And then at the last minute, they moved it to Casey Means. Now, I hope Casey Means is awesome. I don't know her. I know a lot of people are very, bent out of shape about that whole thing. And I just don't know. I do know that Bobby likes her and I trust Bobby. So
Victory has been on our show many times. She's a friend of the
awesome.
show, and she's fantastic.
She is.
It's just a straight shooter. So, I have nothing against Casey Means, but I want to know why the switch was made, right? I mean, and the argument is that Means will not pull off the mRNA shots where Victory would.
Well,
I don't care that she doesn't have a medical license. That doesn't bother me, right? She's a trained medical professional. So what? That her license is at current, but
I don't care about her past so much because at the end of the day, we all got a past. And, she came around a year or two ago and decided to see the light. Well, in 2019, I was pro-vax. Mm-hmm. So I had a past, right? I was wrong. So I'm not going to bust someone's chops for their past. Exactly. What I'm going to do, though, is I want to look at the issue here. And, like I said, Kelly would have been spectacular. I love Kelly. She's a great friend to me, an awesome person. And I'm not saying Casey won't be, but it's another instance where we're just waiting to see what happens. Now, I will say the one thing that I'll give the benefit of the doubt on, though, is Bobby has been, and I know I can see what Bobby's doing here. And if I were in his seat, I'd probably have to do it in a similar way. I mean, I'm sure I'd have probably got fired already, because if I was in Bobby's seat, I'd have just, I'd have burned it all down. But I think that, you got to understand that Bobby's hands are tied, and it's not. By the way, it's not the senator. I saw some stuff on the internet talking about the senator and his thing. That's bullcrap. That is 100% bullcrap. He has no legal authority whatsoever over Bobby. Bobby's hands are tied from the White House. Okay, that's where the control issue is. It's not some random senator blowhard. It's 100% the White House. So I mean, at the end of the day, listen, where does this go and what's happening? Bobby's hands are tied, but if he wants to get there, he's going to have to produce evidence on a massive scale. And I will remind everybody of this.
You mean get to where? To mRNA staying on the
Getting
market?
this stuff pulled off the market, blocking this stuff, making it safe.
Yeah.
Bobby did start requiring placebo-controlled trials.
I saw that for the vaccines. Yeah.
So that is game-changing on all fronts, because we know how these things are going to perform in a placebo-controlled trial. They aren't. Right?
So maybe that's just a backdoor, more efficient way of getting it
I
done.
think Bobby has no choice but to do this in a very clever backdoor way.
Mm-hmm.
Because what else is he going to do? And we elected Trump because we want fight back. Yeah. It's not enough for we the people that he just gets some things done. We want accountability. We want justice. That's why we're so
future for our kids is what we want.
Well, that's why we're talking about Bondi. That's why we're talking about all these things. So, we want that. And I think there's a lot of frustration because everybody wanted Bobby to come in and burn down the house. But if he did, he would have lost his job. And then we would have got some whacked out sellout in his position. So I'm going to defend Bobby yet. I 100% on this, because at the end of the day, if Bobby doesn't keep gradually doing what he's doing, it isn't going to get done. And there is no way, if the White House isn't in favor of this, he's got to build the case very slowly and very carefully and do it just right to make the changes. He can't just burn it down, or he loses that job, and God knows what we get then. We got Bhattacharya in there. Mm-hmm. He seems to be okay, so, and doing pretty good on stuff. And I appreciated what he did during COVID. There's a lot of questions about some of the other people, but they're questions. We don't have evidence. And at the end of the day, what we got to do is, Bobby indicated that by September, I think, there'd be major changes. So let's give him till September and see what he's got. I can imagine that with something as messy as the pharmaceutical world, that it's going to take a minute to get done. The other side of it is, though, you look at Mary Tyler Bowden and some of these folks. She's right. Every day she's seeing new babies that are dying, being killed, people who are destroyed. And unfortunately, right now, whether we like it or not, politics are governing the lives and safety of our children.
No, there's no getting around that. And the whole mRNA thing is disturbing. I still think this EO that he's going to sign today on the pharma prices is another backdoor method of getting rid of the influence they have, because it's not just the legacy media, it's conservative ink too. I mean, you're seeing reports of all influencers now getting money from pharma and all. I mean, it on the conservative allegedly side. Yeah. So this is a huge issue. I mean, it's still going on.
Well, I'll just tell you right now, right? So I mean, I'm at, I don't know, 330,000 on Twitter or something. And, I got a fair bit of reach, but I will tell you right now, we have people who do analytics for me.
Yeah.
You look at a post about, someone who's doing a travel trip versus the post that I put up there. And if you see the same number of likes and the same number of shares, that post about travel will get about 10x more visibility than mine on Instagram and similar on Twitter. Censorship is real. Totally. So the thing about influencers, and I work with and represent some of them. I mean, it's private. I don't make it public all the time, but I help some of them, right? The thing about influencers is this: they make their living off of views. So unless they want to have their living cut off, they have to tote the line. Now, I'm too stupid to do that. If I were smart, I would just take the money and run. But I keep I don't know. I'm like Don Quixote. I keep chasing those windmills because I'm not bright enough to change. But at the end of the day, that drives this in a massive way. And
Sure.
it's the issue.
Well, I feel your pain, brother, because we were deplatformed massively for our reporting, and we're still trying to rebuild. We lost hundreds of thousands of followers several years ago
Oh,
across
yeah.
multiple platforms, and same on Twitter. I think we're throttled because our reporting is credible and real on a variety of subjects, and but it's struggling to rebuild. But I do hope Bobby. We've got a loss. We joined his lawsuit against the Trusted News Initiative to stop the antitrust, monopoly actions against free media. But
100%.
yeah, what are you working on now? Before we let you go, what do you got? What's on the plate?
Well, right now, to be real honest, what we're working on is raising the funding for some of the next big suits. I've got a lawsuit that I think can get through the PrEP Act and can bring accountability to pharma. I've got another lawsuit I think that could potentially shut down mRNA vaccines, make sure that that vaccine protection goes away. I've got a few different things there, but really at the end of the day, what we've got to do is we've got to build it up. So I'm providing support on a number of cases privately, because if my name's attached to it, it gets a lot more attention than you want on certain things.
Sure.
But we're doing some of that. We're working on with a bunch of states on some legislation here and there. We were real active in the chemtrail stuff. I want to, by the way, shout out to Global Wellness Forum for that. They've done a wonderful job. I do some work with them, and I did some other work here and there on that. I love those guys. They're doing a great work. And we did get a chemtrail bill in Florida. There's, they have one passed in Tennessee, and these bills aren't going to shut down what the federal government's doing. But, Bobby's talking about it. We know that they're working on it. And that happened because of the credibility that was brought to this issue by people like us fighting this. So it's a good thing.
On that issue, I mean, if the whole chemtrails thing kind of takes away from the argument where they're doing mRNA for the benefit of humanity.
Yeah.
Because the chemtrail thing is, killing. And if they're doing that, then the vaccines look really dark.
It's not for the benefit of humanity. I mean, listen, everybody knew that the mRNA COVID vaccines provided no benefit and had great risks. The only benefit they provided was to the pocketbook of Big Pharma. And everybody knew that, except for, remember, Trump didn't know that because Deborah Birx said in her book and openly admitted her job was to lie to Donald Trump every day. So, it worked. She did a great job of it. And so now we're stuck with this bit of a mess. And until we can get, Bobby in a position where he's got the evidence to really break it down, it's going to continue on. So last thing I'm doing that's really big is we got the Tom Renz show we're doing every day. We're trying to do like you guys and have a nice little show going on.
Yeah.
Because when we do the political and the legal work, if people aren't aware, if we don't get the data out, it's very tough. You have to be able to push the politicians using the your voice and the will of the people.
So true. We're in multiple different states with our local papers, and the media accountability, like in Georgia, they own everything. They have the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, all of it. And just our paper, a digital online Georgia Record, and the Georgia show we do there.
Yeah.
Just that is freak them out. I mean, they cannot stand any media accountability, and it's so necessary, right?
100%. I cannot stress the importance of supporting guys like you, Todd, and what we're doing. And in fact, by the way, if you want to talk off air, I'm happy to work with you guys to do that. We have to build each other up. And conservative media, the real conservative media, we have to be backing each other. We have to be supporting each other. We have to be building each other up. And we've got to make sure people are watching. I cannot stress how important it is that you watch and share these shows, because these shows have to make enough money to become self-sustaining. We have to become a real new media. We've got to have enough reach to protect ourselves, because we will get deplatformed, shut down, whatever. Right now, we got a mini golden age that I hope fully manifests, because Trump is giving us more free speech. We are getting these things. He's doing a great job as president. But that could all go away again. So, we got to build up these conservative voices so everybody knows where to find truth.
Completely agree. So if you have a lawsuit on getting suppressed, let me know, because it's still happening. And let's talk offline, and we'll love to have you back down the road. Really appreciate you coming on, and I knew it would be good. So thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Todd.